comes to the second season of the Vince Staples show, I'll be honest and say I found it to be quite a whole new experience. Firstly, I liked how instead of each episode being its own individual story, if anything, it's more all connected into one long episode. At least that's how I feel about the entire series, going for more of a serial approach instead of the individual stories that we got in the previous season. Not only that, but I've really enjoyed that the show went into more surreal territory in comparison, feeling not only confusing but like an acid trip gone wrong. And with that, what I really enjoyed is how the creators never truly revealed to the audience their true intentions, somewhat subverting audiences' expectations, which could be seen good and bad from the story perspective, but at the same time it goes into bizarre territories you're not quite thinking of. What I really thought was intriguing is we see that the show is using Vincent and his family as a representation of grief and how people deal with a death in the family. Specifically Vince, who we see is having visions of his deceased uncle in nearly every episode, to the point that this is how this journey starts off with him having a vision, and then the journey goes on, which I thought was quite a cool way to start the show. From a visual perspective, I would say this series is still on top in comparison to the first season, and whilst it isn't used for the comedic effect for most of the time, it definitely is used to create an eerie atmosphere, which I think it does an excellent job at. When it comes to the humour, I'll be honest and say there are moments of great dialogue pieced humour, and there are one or two visual gags which I really did enjoy. I just wish they added more of those type of things into the show. And sadly, they de-escalated the amount of violence we see throughout the series, but when we do get the violence, they definitely don't shy away from the graphic imagery that is displayed. Now when it comes to the finale, I'll be honest and say it was quite violent and hilarious. Whilst we sadly have to say that the most violence is off screen, that also adds to the humour as we're seeing Vincent having ordinary conversations with his family members on the phone whilst gunshots are going off, and we're just seeing that they're so calm and collective. There's no fear in either's voice, and I just thought that was quite astounding. And then towards the end, Vincent's eulogy that they've been building up to was actually quite a cool scene, seeing it being both emotional but funny as well, and to top it off, it ends on a cliffhanger. Whilst all that's well and good, the show does have, in my eyes, a lot of things to critique. Firstly, I think the humour is taking quite the back seat in order for surreal storylines to drive forward, and whilst I will say in majority of the cases it's intriguing to see this and it does a good job of succeeding, there are quite a few episodes that feel like this nightmarish dream that you just want to see get wrapped up, specifically episodes 3 and 4. Then when it comes to Vincent, I feel like he has less dialogue in most episodes, and it's sad to see that because he is usually the one bringing the dialogue that is quite funny, and sadly we aren't getting that as much. And then when it comes to his family, admittedly I really enjoyed them in the first series, and so to see them get more screen time was enjoyable, but at the same time I think they were overused to the point that their arguments that they have with one another came more annoying than funny. Overall, I will say that this was an intriguing concept for them to deliver on. I really enjoyed the change of gears, especially for a second series, so I have to commend them on that, but at the same time I think the execution was off and it left a lot to be desired. With that being said, is this good? I'm going to be honest and say it's decent. Rating wise, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Now when it comes to would I rewatch it, the answer is sadly no. Like the first series, there are some decent moments, but at the same time I felt like a lot of episodes they were dragging their knuckles to an extent. I just really wanted them to wrap this disturbing, slightly uninteresting storyline to move on to the next part, those being episodes 3 and 4. 5 was okay, miles ahead than 4. But yeah, when it comes to recommendations, the only thing I can really say is Atlanta, not only because Childish Gambino / Danny Glover and Vince Staples are both comedic actors / rappers, but also the show, specifically this series and series 3 of Atlanta, have a lot of similarities in the surreal territory. But I think what separates them is the comedy aspect. The Vince Staples show series 2 I felt wasn't as funny, whilst series 3 of Atlanta was able to do both the surreal aspect and the comedy aspect and not have to sacrifice one for the other. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for the second series of the Vince Staples show. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, thank you and have a nice day.